Chapter 2844. This time round, Yiqing Luo didn't stop Grand Elder Miao from leaving. When Grand Elder Miao left, his footsteps were slightly hesitant. After a few steps, he didn't hear the young lady stopping him. Immediately, he hastened his footsteps and left speedily. He was afraid that Yiqing Luo would go back on her words and pester him endlessly. Grand Elder Miao's figure quickly disappeared in front of the three of them. The area outside the Sacred Maiden's courtyard instantly quietened down. Miao Yi's brows creased tightly as she looked at Yiqing Luo and asked, "Qing Luo, why didn't you let Fifth Elder Miao speak clearly?" Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she squinted her eyes with a smile which didn't look like a smile. In the depths of her eyes, there seemed to be a stream of light which kept flickering. This stream of light reflected into Miao Yi's eyes. Miao Yi only felt a chill throughout her body, as though a cold ray had spread from her feet to her entire body. Miao Yi couldn't help but rejoice silently. Luckily Yi was friends with Yiqing Qing. If she was an enemy, she was afraid that even she was not Yiqing Luo's opponent. No need to ask, I can tell that Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong should have been released. Yiqing Luo's voice was calm without any excess emotions. Before coming here, those few elders should have met Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong. Miao Yi and Miao Yi had the same feeling about this. But they couldn't believe that this was true. Miao Yi's brows creased even tighter. Those two are the Miao tribe's traitors. They have offended the overlord and you, and also offended the Qinhua sect. Those few elders seem to be more selfish and only want to secure their own elder's position. Why would they take such a huge risk to hide the truth about those two people? To those people, we are after all outsiders. Miao Yi gave a cold smile as her lips twitched. Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong have been in power for so many years and are completely Miao tribe people. I can confirm that if Miao Rongrong had a chance to make a comeback, they would absolutely not hesitate to kick us aside and help Miao Rongrong up. They can't bear to kick Miao Gu's genius away. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. One becomes Sacred Maiden and the other becomes clan leader. It's a happy ending. Miao Yi and Miao Ji looked at each other, their expressions changing. Although the Miao tribe leader was the tribe leader, his power was not as great as that of the saintess. The holy maiden of the Miao tribe was the true leader of the tribe. If Miao Rongrong became the saintess of the Miao tribe, even if Miao Yi was the chief of the Miao tribe, she would still be suppressed to the point where there was no room for her to breathe. Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong sure have a good plan. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at Miao Yi. These few elders have apparently been brainwashed by Miao Rongrong and they don't trust you. If I didn't guess wrongly, later when the recognition ceremony starts, your every action will be restricted. It was just as Great Elder Miao had said. They would never allow any accidents to happen. To prevent Miao Rongrong's words from becoming a reality. This was to prevent Miao Yi from thinking of ways to ruin the Miao tribe during the ceremony. They would carefully control everything about Miao Yi. Those two, what are they planning? What are they trying to do? Miao Yi's expression darkened. Miao Rongrong, don't tell me you're planning to fight for the position of Holy Virgin during the ceremony. Chapter 2845. Miao Yi gritted her teeth. I'll go and watch the inheritance ceremony. I want to see what they're up to. No need. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly, revealing a calm smile. I'm here, rest assured. Miao Yi wanted to refuse. After all, they were in the Miao tribe, and her identity as the Holy Virgin still had some prestige. However, before Miao Yi could reject him, Miao Yi replied, Auntie, you should go rest and rest. Wait for me to go to Holy Maiden Pavilion to find you. Miao Yi swallowed the words that she was about to say. Miao Rongrong and Miao Yixiong's reputation has been ruined because of what happened to the Qinhua clan. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at Miao Yi. Even if those few elders want Miao Rongrong to become the sacred maiden, that would depend on whether the Miao clansmen agree to it or not. She paused, her eyes curved into a smile. After all, Miao Rongrong, and her own father, performed a scene of taboo love. No matter how magnanimous the Miao tribesmen are, they will not be able to accept this. Then, she tilted her head and said, moreover, the main reason why Miao Rongrong and Miao Yixiong ended up like this was because they tried to poison Xian, the great Dizun. Moreover, with my current status and the attitude of the Qinhua sect, is it even possible for Miao Rongrong to become the holy maiden? The two of them listened carefully to Yiqing Luo's words. His eyes instantly lit up. Yiqing Luo's words weren't without reason. Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong's deeds were a disgrace to the Miao tribe. Miao Rongrong really wanted to return to the Miao tribe. It was definitely not that easy. Miao Zhi's heart was immediately at ease. Qing Luo, I'm curious. Miao Zhi recalled Great Elder Miao's reaction. If those two people had really returned from the Qinhua sect, why did Great Elder Miao still dare to ask you to investigate the Qinhua sect? Everyone knew that Yiqing Luo and the leader of the 3,000 peach blossoms had a close relationship. All he had to do was ask. The 3,000 peach blossoms would soon bring news of the Qinhua sect. The matter of Miao Rongrong and Miao Yixiong being brought out of Qinhua clan would soon reach Yiqing Luo's ears. But Grand Elder Miao seemed as though he wasn't worried that Yiqing Luo would search for news of Qinhua sect. Yiqing Luo's eyes curled into a smile as her eyes shimmered with an additional sense of ridicule. Even if the 3,000 peach blossoms went to investigate, the news they would probably bring back would be Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong are indeed in the underground prison of Qinhua sect. Those two people. Miao Yi's face paled. Yiqing Luo's gaze gradually sunk as it turned gloomy and deep. Those two people in Elation sect should have been swapped out. Swap. Miao Yi and Miao Zhi were stunned. Miao Yi clenched her fists in anger. We should have exposed them just now. They want to make it impossible for me to become the saintess in peace, and I will make it impossible for them to conduct the inheritance ceremony in peace. This point, you have already done it. Yiqing Luo glanced at her. Miao Rongrong and those elders should be very certain that you don't have the whereabouts of the king of venomous worms on you, so they specially went to the saintess courtyard to force you to hand over the king of venomous worms, so that they could be at ease. You still refuse to let him take a look at the king of venomous worms, and adding on to the brainwashing words that Miao Rongrong said to him, he was definitely absent-minded when he conducted the inheritance ceremony, and was in a trance, unable to set his mind at ease. Chapter 2846. Since those elders are unable to completely trust you and have other intentions, then let them carry their last bit of hope and fall into despair. Yiqing Luo's voice was languid, with a terrifying charm. Destroy their disloyalty in front of everyone, so that Miao Yixiong and Miao Rongrong have no chance to make a comeback. Let them know, in the entire Miao tribe, only you alone, is the person that they truly need to be loyal to. As Miao Yi listened, tears welled up in her eyes. Yiqing Luo's schemes. All to pave the way for her future in the Miao tribe. Looking at Miao Yi's reddened eyes, Yiqing Luo raised her hand and rubbed her head. All right, don't be in a hurry to be touched. After everything has settled down, I don't mind if you repay me with your body. Miao Yi's originally touched heart was tickled by Yiqing Luo's words. She burst out laughing. I don't dare to devote my life to you. I'm afraid His Majesty will tear me apart. The atmosphere returned to a relaxed one. When Miao Zhi saw this scene, she was relieved. Yiqing Luo was by Miao Yi's side. She did not need to worry that Miao Yi would be humiliated during the ceremony. On the contrary, she should be more worried about those who were seeking their own death and offended Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was so protective of Miao Yi. What she needed to do now was to repay Yi Qing Luo, to find the best way to remove the love worm and the centrifugal worm at the same time. The exhaustion from a sleepless night disappeared in this moment of relaxation, and drowsiness rushed to his head. Miao Ji pressed the corners of her eyes and waved her hand. Go to the land of the king of venomous worms. I'll go back to my room to rest and wait for your good news. The two looked at each other and smiled. The two of them walked side by side toward the land of the king of venomous worms. He had only taken a few steps. Yi Qing Luo acutely sensed something. She frowned and turned to look at a certain place in the saint's courtyard. What's wrong? Miao Yi asked. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept the surroundings and didn't detect any other presence before she retracted her gaze. Nothing much, maybe it's my misperception. She felt as if someone had been staring at her. Yi Qing Luo didn't take this episode to heart. Pulling Miao Yi along, they quickly disappeared from the saint's domain. Yi Qing Luo didn't know. Not long after she left, a tall and slender figure walked out from the darkness. That figure was like a god, noble and elegant. The figure was dressed in a flowing purple robe, and his black hair was let loose behind him. That cold and peerless face exuded an icy coldness. Since you want to see her, why do you have to sneak around? Miao Ji turned around and looked at the man behind her. The great Dizun is starting to be sneaky. Dmo Xian's expression was cold, his icy cold peach blossom eyes fixed on the direction where Yi Qing Luo left. What you said to this lord last night, is it true? Whether it's true or not, the overlord should already know the answer, right? Miao Ji replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, Overlord, you must have felt that Miss Yi is a very special existence to you. Dmo Xian's eyes darkened. He tilted his face to the side, and his thin lips moved as he spat out coldly, the separation curse, makes me forget my beloved? That woman is my beloved. When he asked this question, Dmo Xian's tone was obviously stiff, as though he was admitting his inner feelings towards Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 2847. Although I'm not sure how much love you and Miss Yi have without the centrifugal worm. Miao Ji's smile became gentler, but I'm sure that you absolutely love her. Dmo Xian's pupils contracted as the hands by his side clenched into fists. Miao Ji noticed the man's tensed-up emotions. This proved that Dmo Xian had indeed taken her words into his head. She smiled. The reason why I told you about the centrifugal worm is not because I want to use this to build a relationship with the overlord, but... Miao Ji paused as her voice became gentler. I don't want to see Miss Yi upset. Difficult. Dmo Xian frowned as he spat out two words in a hoarse voice. Yeah, after all she loves you. Miao Ji nodded seriously. You used to love each other so much, she loved you so much but you don't remember her, and always used sharp words to poke her heart. How could she not be upset? Miao Ji lowered her eyelids. Last night, didn't I tell the overlord that after you left? Miss Yi was alone in the room, very sad, very upset. Moreover, she didn't sleep last night because she was worried about you. Dmo Xian recalled earlier when he saw the obvious greenish-black under Yi Qing Luo's eyes. All the muscles in his body tensed up. There was a kind of feeling in his chest. He couldn't describe that feeling. Only his mind was filled with the greenish-black under Yi Qing Luo's eyes and the words, didn't sleep last night. Overlord, I just want to give you a piece of advice. Miao Ji had been paying attention to the changes in Dmo Xian's emotions. Although it wasn't real. But Miao Ji noticed it. When he mentioned Yi Qing Luo, the atmosphere would always freeze for a moment. It was enough to prove that the current Dmo Xian didn't really have no feelings for Yi Qing Luo. If you believe in your heart, believe in your first feeling. Then don't do anything to hurt Miss Yi. Miao Ji continued to speak. Otherwise, when the poison in your body is cured, the one who will regret it will be you, Overlord. Dmo Xian's eyes deepened, filled with a deep black. Like a whirlpool, it kept churning in his eyes. He clenched his fists tightly again. After that, his figure flashed and disappeared before Miao Ji's eyes. An extremely cold aura rose in the air. Miao Ji quietly looked at the direction where Dmo Xian had left. He didn't seem to be affected by the cold light at all. Slowly, a smile appeared on his face as he shook his head. Then, he sighed softly, turned around, and entered the saint's courtyard. The hour was drawing near. Miao Yi and Yiqing Luo arrived late. Fourth Elder Miao had been waiting on the path to the land of the King of Venomous Worms. The moment he saw Miao Yi, he rushed forward anxiously. "Miss Miao, you're finally here. Boss and the others have been waiting for you for a long time." After the bell rang, it was time for the ceremony to begin. Now, there was only the time it took for an incense stick to burn before the bell would ring. However, the King of Venomous Worms that Miao Yi said would appear before the inheritance ceremony started was still nowhere to be found. More than 300 tribesmen of the Miao tribe had gathered outside the land of the King of Venomous Worms. There were also more than 200 guests. Why they were here? Other than witnessing the birth of the Miao tribe's saintess. The most important thing was to see how the ancient King of Venomous Worms looked like. The elders were so anxious that they couldn't even stand properly. Star. Chapter 28:48. Miao Yi glanced at Fourth Elder Miao indifferently. "What's wrong? Is there anything wrong with the inheritance ceremony?" No. Everything is ready." Fourth Elder Miao wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said anxiously, "But, Miss Miao, that ancient Gu King, you haven't..." Miao Yi raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "Fourth Elder Miao, do you not believe me?" "No, that's not it." Fourth Elder Miao did not dare to say that he did not believe her. He broke out in a cold sweat and said, "What I mean is that all the preparations are in place and the time is almost up. First, Miss Miao should send the King of Venomous Worms back to the land of the King of Venomous Worms before the guests arrive to prevent others from thinking too much." Miao Yi narrowed her eyes, tilted her head and smiled at the young lady beside her. "Qing Luo, do you think I should listen to him and take out the King of Venomous Worms first?" Miao Yi was very clear. With her status, it was basically impossible for her to avoid the control of the elders. For the Miao tribe's reputation, the four elders would definitely join forces to suppress her aura. If he was really suppressed by the four elders at the same time, wouldn't that fulfill Miao Rongrong's wish? So Miao Yi decisively hugged onto Yiqing Luo's thigh. As long as Yiqing Luo was around, it didn't matter what tricks those elders wanted to play. They had to consider Yiqing Luo's identity and the power behind her. As expected, just as Miao Yi turned her words towards Yiqing Luo, Fourth Elder Miao's face instantly turned pale. He opened his mouth and tried to stop her several times. However, he couldn't think of any reason to stop him. If Yiqing Luo's identity was still Yi Luo, even if he had a slight relationship with the Overlord, they could still muster up the courage to gamble for the future of the Miao tribe. But Yiqing Luo was Yiqing Luo. She was the elder sister of the new leader of the West Continent's Three Springs sect, the strongest student of the best academy, Heavenly Academy, the little hero who saved the students of various continents and saved the West Continent from the calamity of extinction. In addition, as everyone knew, the Overlord pampered West Continent's Yiqing Luo in the palm of his hand. Even his only mount, the nine-tailed white fox, was at Yiqing Luo's disposal. This was enough to prove Yiqing Luo's status in the Overlord's heart. How would they dare to show any disrespect towards Yiqing Luo? Fourth Elder Miao was begging with all his might, hoping that Yiqing Luo would not interfere in the Miao tribe's matters. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo glanced sideways and met Miao Yi's line of sight as her pink lips rose slightly. Fourth Elder Miao's heart was in his throat. Yiqing Luo chuckled, "Of course you can't hand it over. Can't a silly lady like you tell that my heart isn't on your side at all? If you hand over the king of venomous worms, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your position as the sacred maiden." Yiqing Luo's reply made Fourth Elder Miao's heart tremble. His entire face instantly turned deathly pale. He stood stiffly on the spot with a look of disbelief on his face. They couldn't believe that Yiqing Luo could actually say out their inner thoughts so clearly. They had no intention of leaving any face for their elders. Fourth Elder Miao's face sank. He gritted his teeth and frowned. He was infuriated, but he still forced a smile. Miss Yi, what are you saying? Miss Miao is the only direct descendant of the Miao tribe. Of course we will be loyal to Miss Miao. Chapter 2849. Miao Yi put on an obedient look as she nodded, "Then I'll hide the king of venomous worms well." Yiqing Luo's face showed that the child was worth teaching as she replied with a warm smile, "And, hide it well, don't let those people with ill intentions steal the king of venomous worms." Fourth Elder Miao, who was standing by the side. When did Miao Yi become so obedient? Yesterday's aura was fully unleashed. Not long ago when they met, she still had a noble and cold attitude. How did she become such an obedient person now? Furthermore, Yiqing Luo's words. Was she treating him as non-existent? Was he purposely mocking their elder for pretending to obey but secretly opposing in front of him and harboring evil intentions? Fourth Elder Miao was so infuriated that his beard was flying, but on account of Yiqing Luo's face, he could only keep his anger to himself. Unable to ask for the whereabouts of the king of venomous worms. The three of them were getting closer and closer to the land of the king of venomous worms. Fourth Elder Miao's heart was getting more and more flustered. This Miao Yi was simply impervious to everything. Plus Yiqing Luo was protecting her by her side. Even if they wanted to follow the original plan, to control Miao Yi with the four of them, it was impossible. The nearer they got to the land of the king of venomous worms, the more anxious Fourth Elder Miao was. Looking at the two young ladies in front, chatting happily, his heart was getting more and more anxious. How could the two people in front not feel Fourth Elder Miao's impatience, as well as his increasingly anxious mood? They only acted as though they knew nothing. Like the few disloyal people in the Miao tribe. The more they behaved calmly and freely, the more they scratched their hearts and liver. Not knowing. Would the Miao father and daughter pair hiding in the dark be anxious? Very quickly, this question was answered. Right at the land of the king of venomous worms, at the entrance of the rear mountain, an old man dressed in a white robe walked over in quick steps. Apparently, this old man had been waiting at the entrance of the rear mountain right from the start, just to block Miao Yi. Eldest young Miss Miao, hurry, hurry, there's only less than half an incense's time left, you have to hurry and prepare to start the king of venomous worms inheritance ceremony. The person who came was the slightly plump and amiable-looking Great Elder Miao. He had an anxious and friendly smile on his face. The moment they met, he wasn't asking about the Gu King, but he was worried that he had missed the best time to inherit. Big brother. Fourth Elder Miao clenched his fists and immediately rushed towards Great Elder Miao. Grand Elder Miao glanced at him but did not say anything. Then, he looked at Miao Yi, who was standing motionless at the side, and called out, "Young Lady Miao." Chapter 2850. She had to admit that Grand Elder Miao's words weren't wrong at all. If it was someone who didn't know the truth, they might really believe Grand Elder Miao. Miao Yi's eyelashes fluttered as she slowly raised her eyes and met Grand Elder Miao's eyes. "Grand Elder Miao. You really believe in me?" Grand Elder Miao's gaze was calm as he gave a calm smile, "Of course. After the ceremony, you will be the Miao tribe's sacred maiden." This elder's heart is naturally on your side. Miao Yi revealed a smile on her face, but beneath her eyes surfaced a sliver of undetectable ridicule. Her tone was appropriately touched, with Grand Elder Miao's words, "I feel assured." Grand Elder Miao still wanted to say something. Fifth Elder Miao's urging voice was heard from behind, "Boss, time is almost up. If you have anything to say, say it on the way." Right, there's not much time left. Grand Elder Miao's face was filled with an amiable smile. "Eldest young Miss Miao, please." He stretched out his hand as he gestured for Miao Yi to leave first. The entrance to the rear mountain of the land of the King of Venomous Worms was a tunnel that led directly to the King of Venomous Worms' nurturing grounds. Entering from the rear mountain entrance, they just needed to make a few turns and they would reach their destination. Miao Yi held Yiqing Luo's hand and was just about to leave when she was stopped by Grand Elder Miao. "Miss Yi, please hold on." Miao Yi's petite body stiffened as her eyes flashed. Yiqing Luo's eyes revealed as expected, deep meaning as her lips curled slightly as she smiled at Grand Elder Miao. This is the Miao tribe's secret grounds. Although Miss Yi and eldest young Miss Miao have a close relationship, but ultimately you're not a Miao tribe member, so... Grand Elder Miao explained in a warm voice. Saying that, he intentionally paused for a moment. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly. "Oh. I can't enter. This tunnel can only be entered by Miao Tribe's sacred maiden, Miao Tribe leader, Elder Miao Tribe and the last sacred maiden candidate." Grand Elder Miao revealed a difficult expression. "If Miss Yi doesn't believe me, you can ask the Miao Tribe members. This has been the Miao Tribe's rule for hundreds of years." "I didn't say I don't believe you." Yiqing Luo waved her hand. "Since it's the Miao Tribe's rules, it's not good for me to request the elder to break the Miao Tribe's rules for me, so I should abide by it." Just as she finished this sentence, Yiqing Luo could obviously sense that Fifth Elder Miao's eyes, which was filled with anxiousness, revealed an unconcealable complacency. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past a gloomy glint as the smile on her lips grew wider. "But I have a few words which I wish to speak to Yi alone." Great Elder Miao thought that Yiqing Luo was reminding Miao Yi to be careful and not to trust them too much. But when he thought about the plan they had arranged, it was flawless. He didn't take it to heart. "Time is pressing. If Miss Yi has anything to say, please say it quickly." With that, Great Elder Miao and the other elders took the lead and entered the tunnel. However, after entering the tunnel, their gazes were fixed unblinkingly on the two people who were whispering to each other. They were extremely vigilant. He had witnessed Yiqing Luo's treachery. They could not allow any accidents to happen. However, what they were worried about did not happen. Yiqing Luo only said something to Miao Yi. Following that, she hugged Miao Yi, as though she was cheering for her. After that, she turned around and walked towards the direction of the guest passageway. Grand Elder Miao heaved a sigh of relief. Looked like he had overestimated Yiqing Luo. After all, she was just a 15-year-old young lady. Her experience of mingling in the world was still too tender. Seeing Miao Yi walking towards the tunnel. Chapter 28:51. Has Miss Yi left? Fourth Elder Miao looked behind Miao Yi as he intentionally asked. Miao Yi's expression was calm as she revealed a smile. Great Elder Miao and the rest had personally witnessed Yiqing Luo's figure leaving, so they didn't suspect anything as they immediately replied, "Time is of the essence, let's hurry over now." Saying that, he turned around and led the way in front. Exchanging a glance with the other three elders, the few of them rolled their eyeballs as they understood what was going on. And Fifth Elder Miao was the one who couldn't control the emotions on his face the most. As he walked forward, his peripheral vision kept glancing at Miao Yi. His face was filled with a complacent, sinister smile. The few of them each had their own thoughts. The few of them didn't know. Just outside the tunnel, that young lady who was walking slowly towards the guest passageway, her steps were stiff and extremely swaying. His blazing red robe seemed to have been extinguished. There was not the slightest bit of vigor in it. When Dmo Xian rushed over, what he saw was the swaying forward, totally unaware young lady. Step by step, she brushed past his shoulder and continued walking forward. The young lady's long hair cascaded down, covering the young lady's face. It made one unable to see the emotions on the young lady's face clearly. The young lady kept her head lowered as she walked forward stiffly. Dmo Xian, who was ignored, frowned as he squinted his peach blossom eyes in displeasure. He quickly chased up and grabbed the young lady's arm as with a flash, he drilled into the dense forest. His wide palm pressed directly on the young lady's shoulder as his deep and hoarse voice was extremely deep, Yi Qing Luo. But the young lady who was pressed against the tree trunk by him didn't show any signs of struggling. Nor did she feel any throbbing when she heard his voice. The young lady just quietly lowered her head. There wasn't any fluctuation of emotions. Why? Treating me as if I don't exist. Dmo Xian gave a cold laugh as a dangerous glint flashed past his eyes. The young lady still didn't reply. So calm that there wasn't a single ripple. To the extent that Dmo Xian couldn't even feel the young lady's breathing. Wait a minute. Breathing. Dmo Xian's cold face moved as his eyes flashed a few times. He raised his hand and his large palm swiftly went past that long hair as he clasped her lower jaw. Her long hair was forced to scatter, and her face was forced to be revealed. Dmo Xian's pupils, upon meeting that face, involuntarily constricted a few times. He spread his arms and tossed the person in his hands out. The red-clothed girl fell to the ground. Under her messy long hair, it was a face without any facial features. In the tunnel, Miao Yi had been vigilantly watching the movements of the four elders. Originally, the four elders were leading the way. And when they were about halfway through the journey, Miao Yi realized that she had been unknowingly surrounded by the four elders in a formation, trapping her in the middle. Walking in front were first elder Miao and fourth elder Miao. Second elder Miao and fifth elder Miao stood behind him. Miao Yi was secretly startled. She had been careful enough. Unknowingly, she was surrounded by a few elders and she was completely unaware of it, looked like the things which Yi Qing Luo had guessed. Step by step, everything was developing towards reality. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of a stone knocking against the rock wall was heard. At the same time, the surrounding elders who seemed to be walking leisurely, speedily rushed up and surrounded Miao Yi. Chapter 28:52. Fifth elder Miao laughed coldly. Miao Yi, do you really think that you can become the Miao tribe's holy maiden? Ha ha ha, you don't have that qualification. Old 5. Great elder Miao harshly berated, even if young Miss Miao might not become the saintess, it is not something you can make up. Miao Yi's eyes flickered. He quickly hid the cold glint in his eyes. How could she not hear it? Great elder Miao's words sounded like he was trying to clear her name. But in reality, wasn't he silently agreeing to fifth elder Miao's words? She might not necessarily become the saintess. As expected of great elder Miao. He even calculated all the possible routes of retreat. Miao Yi sneered in her heart, but her face was pale. She frowned and shrank back. What do you mean by that? Fifth elder Miao kept laughing coldly. Great elder Miao maintained his smiling expression. Young lady Miao, there's no need to panic. We just want to confirm if you have the qualifications to become the Miao tribe's holy maiden. Miao Yi's face darkened. She gritted her teeth. Aren't you afraid that my aunt will settle the score with you? Everything I do is for the sake of the Miao tribe. The saintess will understand me, great elder Miao replied with a smile. You. Miao Yi took a few steps back in disbelief. Behind him, he bumped into someone. Second elder Meow lowered his voice and said, "Young lady Meow, don't be impatient. The holy maiden of the Meow tribe is of utmost importance. I just want to make a final confirmation. As long as you perform well and walk out of the underground world, you will still be the one to become the holy maiden." It sounded like he was advising her to be obedient. Meow Ee struggled to break free from second elder Meow's support. She bit her lower lip and glared at the four elders. You all planned this from the start. None of you believed me at all. Meow Ee, who do you think you are? Why should I believe you? You're just a vile spawn born from an outsider who seduced the clan leader. Who do you think you are to be the Meow tribe saintess? Fifth elder Meow looked at Meow Ee's pale face and felt a surge of joy in his heart. Previously the anger he had suffered under her and Yiqing Luo's hand seemed to have found a chance to be vented. Old 5. Don't say another word. Second elder Meow glared at fifth elder Meow. First Miss Meow is protected by the king of venomous worms after all. Even if she's not the holy virgin of the Meow tribe, she'll still be the tribe leader. Second elder Meow glanced at Meow Ee out of the corner of his eye. It was obvious that he had purposely said it for Meow Ee to hear. Obviously, he wanted to use the position of the Meow tribe's leader to appease her. Meow Ee lowered her head. Her fine long hair covered the expression on her face. It also blocked the slight curve of her lips. Indeed, everything was the same as what Qing Luo had guessed. These people were really shameless. He used the excuse that the Meow people were good. He was scheming against her, taking away the position of saintess that should have belonged to her. He even put on a "you should be deeply grateful" attitude, thinking that letting her become the Meow tribe leader was already thinking highly of her. Meow Ee's slender fingers tightened one by one. A low chuckle came from her mouth. The few elders who were still looking at each other were startled when they heard the laughter and looked at Meow Ee. At this moment, Meow Ee had already raised her head. A pair of chilly eyes stared at them coldly. In the tunnel, there was no wind. The wind blew her hair away from her face. Chapter 2853. Meow Ee, you're just a vile spawn born from another clan. Letting you be the clan leader is already giving you a lot of credit. Don't be so ungrateful. Fifth elder Meow was frightened by Meow Ee's laughter, his voice trembling. He was an old man in his 50s. Frightened by a little girl. This was something that fifth elder Meow did not want to admit. Immediately, the words that came out of his mouth became even more venomous. If it wasn't for the protection of the king of venomous worms, do you really think that you can live until now? You even tried to occupy the king of venomous worms and ruin the reputation of the Meow tribe. Let me tell you, if you don't hand over the Goo King today, don't even think about walking out of this tunnel. Old 5. Great elder Meow sounded a little angry. You go to the land of the Goo King and tell the people of the Meow Goo tribe that there is one more candidate for the position of saintess. Now the elders have added a competition. The ceremony of the Goo King's inheritance will be postponed to 2 hours later. Fifth elder Meow was instantly terrified by great elder Meow's roar. He stared venomously at Yiqing Luo, but still listened to grand elder Meow's orders, to inform them of this matter. Meow Ee pursed her red lips. According to the Meow tribe's rules, matters regarding the selection of the holy maiden must be decided by the Meow tribe's holy maiden. I don't think my aunt knows about the addition of a competition. What you are doing is breaking the rules of the Meow tribe. Great elder Meow's amiable smile froze. He did not expect Meow Ee to be so familiar with the rules of the Meow tribe. Just as the few elders were silent, another pebble was knocked on the rock wall, accompanied by the woman's bell-like laughter. Meow Ee, don't call me aunt, aunt, aunt. Do you think that you can be fearless in the Meow tribe just because you have the saintess as your backing? Don't forget, your aunt, she is not from the Meow tribe at all. His voice reminded the elders of the situation. Especially when she heard the last sentence. The faces of the three elders immediately turned ashen. Miao Xi was indeed not from the Miao tribe. Because Miao Xi was the previous saintess, Miao Shi, who had pushed her to the position of saintess. Miao Xi had indeed done well in the past few years. Because of that, the elders subconsciously neglected Miao Xi's identity. Now, he was reminded by the woman. They immediately broke out in cold sweat. He felt that for so many years, an outsider had been in charge of the Miao tribe. If they were not careful, wouldn't the Miao tribe be destroyed by an outsider? The woman laughed maniacally as she walked out from the darkness. The woman was dressed in a jade green dress and looked like a green lotus. When she saw the woman's face clearly, Miao Yi narrowed her eyes and said in a cold voice, "It really is you." Miao Rong Rong. Miao Rong Rong raised her eyebrows and looked Miao Yi up and down with a smile. "It really is me." "So, you already knew it was me?" "Other than you, who else could have the elders of the Miao tribe come up with such a plan?" Miao Yi met Miao Rong Rong's eyes coldly. "What exactly do you want to do? Don't you understand what I want to do?" Miao Rong Rong giggled. She looked at Miao Yi with a venomous gaze. Miao Yi's face darkened. Her gaze slowly shifted to Great Elder Miao. "Great Elder Miao, don't you know that she escaped from the dungeon of Qinhua clan? How can a fugitive compete with me for the position of saintess?" Chapter 28:54. The meaning behind his words was, whether Miao Rong Rong was a fugitive or not, it would be decided after the competition. If she won against Miao Rong Rong, she, Miao Yi, would be the holy lady of the Miao tribe, and Miao Rong Rong would still be a fugitive. But if she lost to Miao Rong Rong, Miao Rong Rong would no longer be a beggar. Hearing Great Elder Miao's shameless words, Miao Yi laughed angrily. "It looks like Great Elder Miao doesn't know what conscience is at all. You can even accept a fugitive without any misgivings. This young lady really admires your big face and big heart." Being ridiculed by a junior, Elder Miao was not angry. Great Elder Miao did not get angry. If young Mistress Miao is confident in her own abilities, she would not be afraid of another match. Is this a question of competition? Miao Yi's face was full of disdain. "I am the dignified Miss Miao, the only direct descendant of the Miao tribe recognized by the Gu King. She is a fugitive who would not even let her own father off. What right does she have to compete with me? Why should I give her this chance?" Miao Yi was not at a disadvantage when she started to speak viciously. Moreover, she purposely targeted Miao Rong Rong's sore spot. Miao Rong Rong felt a tearing pain in her heart from these words. Her face was livid as she gritted her teeth and roared, "Miao Yi! Are you afraid of competing with me? I am not afraid of a woman who would have sex with her own father." Miao Yi retorted with a sneer. Miao Rong Rong's face was even more livid. There was no trace of her previous arrogance. "Since you are not afraid, then compete with me. Do you think that I am someone that can be provoked by any Tom, Dick, or Harry? I look down on someone who would have sex with her own father. Comparing with you lowers my status." Miao Yi continued to sneer as she looked at Miao Rong Rong mockingly. You. Miao Rong Rong's face was red with anger. Her petite body was trembling uncontrollably. Why was this Miao Yi so sharp-tongued? She had poked at her sore spot again and again. She was just a vile spawn. What right did she have to be so arrogant and act all high and mighty? She, Miao Rong Rong, was the true Miao tribe. A Miao person who could truly become the holy maiden of the Miao tribe. Great Elder Miao, aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by letting this kind of trash become the Miao tribe's holy maiden? Miao Yi looked at Great Elder Miao after mocking Miao Rong Rong. Her face was full of mockery. Or should I say, what Great Elder Meow cares about is whether the Meow tribe's holy maiden is of pure Meow bloodline. Meow Yi had directly pointed out his thoughts. The amiable smile that Great Elder Meow had maintained all this time also froze for a moment. Great Elder Meow, why waste your breath on her? I think she's simply afraid of me and doesn't dare to compete with me. Meow Rong Rong sneered and puffed out her chest. Chapter 28:55. Meow Yi dodged to the side and grabbed hold of Fourth Elder Meow, who was trying to stop her. Then, she pulled him hard. Before Fourth Elder Meow could react, he was pulled by Meow Yi and staggered a few steps forward. Meow Rong Rong's sharp nails scratched Fourth Elder Meow's face. "Ah!" Fourth Elder Meow screamed and raised his hand to cover his face. At the same time, Meow Yi loosened her grip on his hand. Fourth Elder Meow's face was scratched by the sudden pull, and he did not even have the time to steady his footing. Meow Yi loosened her grip. Once again, his body fell forward uncontrollably. Meow Rong Rong, who had scratched Fourth Elder Meow's face, realized that she had lost her composure and scratched the wrong person. She panicked. When Fourth Elder Meow pounced on her, Meow Rong Rong did not have time to react. She was pinned to the ground by Fourth Elder Meow. Meow Rong Rong's delicate body fell heavily on the ground. There was also an old man's aura pressing down on his body. It was a hard and heavy body. She felt as if her internal organs were being squeezed by something, and she coughed violently. She felt a fishy taste in her throat, and then she spat out a mouthful of blood. "Get lost! Get lost!" Meow Rong Rong roared in a hoarse voice. Fourth Elder Meow's chest was hurting from the woman's impact. He could hear Meow Rong Rong's roar. He remembered that half of his face was scratched by Meow Rong Rong's claws. Then he heard Meow Rong Rong's disdainful tone and how she pushed him away. Fourth Elder Meow's expression turned grim. He raised his hand and pressed it hard on Meow Rong Rong's shoulder. "Ha, this is really an eye-opener." Suddenly, a girl's crisp voice made the two people who were entangled on the ground stop their movements. The girl's voice carried a faint smile, full of mockery. The girl tilted her head and blinked her beautiful eyes. She smiled at Great Elder Meow and said, "So, Great Elder Meow has such a taste. Great Elder Meow has taken a liking to Meow Rong Rong not because she's from the Meow tribe, but because she's flirtatious and frivolous enough. It's because she's able to roll around with her own father and accept all of you without any qualms, right?" Great Elder Meow's expression turned extremely ugly. He was so angry that his bones were trembling. Meow Yi's words were truly unbearable to the ears. Even Great Elder Meow, who was used to seeing the world, felt his face start to turn red when he heard Meow Yi's words. "Meow Yi! What nonsense are you spouting?" Meow Rong Rong's eyes widened when she heard Meow Yi's mocking words. She shoved Fourth Elder Meow and roared, "It's you. You deliberately set me up. You're the one who pushed this old fart onto me. Meow Yi, you're so sinister." The old fart on Meow Rong Rong's body. While Fourth Elder Meow was still in a daze, he was pushed aside by the crazed Meow Rong Rong. Meow Rong Rong did not even look at Fourth Elder Meow. She quickly crawled up from the ground and forcefully wiped away the bloodstain at the corner of her lips. Her eyes were vicious and filled with a crazy storm. "Meow Yi, you bitch. You want to stop me from becoming a holy lady, right? I want to be a holy lady. I want you to live a hellish life from now on." As Meow Rong Rong spoke, her delicate little face was savage and crazed. She roared and raised her hands high in the air. Her messy black hair danced wildly behind her. Vaguely, there was an ominous premonition spreading from the bottom of his heart. Strange, it was too strange. This Meow Yi was definitely not playing tricks by talking to herself for no reason. Who was Meow Yi talking to? What did she mean by save? The more Great Elder Meow thought about it, the more flustered he became. He furrowed his white brows and quickly walked toward Meow Yi. Miss Meow, what do you mean by that? What is this? It's coming. Chapter 2857. These two words caused Great Elder Meow's expression to change abruptly. He instinctively turned his head. Behind him, the strange Meow Rong Rong who was originally standing at the end of the tunnel had stopped convulsing. Her black hair danced wildly behind her, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Her jade-green robe was now wrapped in a black aura. Her hands were hanging limply by her sides. Her whole body seemed to be out of energy. A face filled with a sinister smile was revealed under the long hair. Her delicate face was twisted into an extremely horrifying expression. In this narrow tunnel, there were luminous pearls all around. The few elders could clearly see the black gas that kept darting around Meow Rong Rong's horrifying face. Great Elder Meow's pupils shrank. What's going on? Meow Rong Rong they looked at each other. Meow Rong Rong was like a puppet that was being controlled. There was no puppet that belonged to her soul. She looked extremely strange. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Great Elder Meow couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. Second Elder Meow immediately recalled Meow Yi's soliloquy, and his expression changed as he quickly walked towards Meow Yi's direction. Young Miss Meow, you know what's going on, right? What's wrong with her? Meow Yi looked at Meow Rong Rong's direction with a smile that didn't look like a smile. You've let a wolf into the house. Don't you know that this wolf is preparing to eat people? The faces of the three elders darkened and turned extremely unpleasant. Still can't tell. The Meow people that you've been thinking about have been completely controlled by another force. Meow Yi didn't care about their emotions as she kindly reminded them. After the three elders saw Meow Rong Rong's situation, they indeed thought so. But hearing Meow Yi say it with an incomparably firm tone, their hearts couldn't help but tighten. Controlled. What kind of force could actually control a person? And they hadn't discovered it for so long. Haven't any of you thought about how she, Meow Rong Rong and Meow Yi Xiong got into that kind of trouble, offended Dmo Xian, and was imprisoned in the Qinghua sect's dungeon? How did she manage to escape from the Qinghua sect without attracting any attention? Meow Yi saw that the three elders were silent for a long time, so she continued to speak on her own. His words caused the faces of the three elders to alternate between green and white for a moment, then red and ashamed for a moment. Jia jia jia. Suddenly, a strange, hoarse laugh rang out in the tunnel. Hearing this made one's hair stand on end. Meow Yi, after following Yi Qing Luo, that little slut, you've become smarter. That hoarse voice, laughter, was filled with madness and hatred. Meow Yi raised her eyebrows, but there was no fear on her face. It seems that I was right. Meow Rong Rong twisted her body stiffly. Step by step, she walked toward Meow Yi on the black air current. The sinister and twisted smile on her face became even more pronounced. So what if I'm right? From the moment you stepped into this tunnel, I've never intended to let you leave this place alive. Meow Rong Rong laughed maniacally, as her eyes turned hazy, and you bunch of old farts. I want all of you to die. Go to hell. The three elders were so frightened by the vicious and strange Meow Yi that they took a few steps back. Whereas Meow Yi was still standing there. She didn't even avert her gaze. Chapter 2858. Even though Meow Rong Rong walked over with a body full of ruthlessness and a body full of black aura, Meow Yi did not react at all. Meow Rong Rong's footsteps stopped 3 steps away from Meow Yi. His face was twisted to the extreme. His eyes were empty and filled with hatred as he stared straight at Meow Yi. Kill me. Meow Rong Rong, what a pity, you don't have the chance. Meow Yi smiled at Meow Rong Rong's gaze. This smile made Miao Rongrong's hatred and anger even more intense. Those eyes that were filled with black mist seemed to be surging with raging flames. No chance. I want to see how long you can be so stubborn. Miao Rongrong roared angrily. She raised her hand and slammed it on the wall beside her. In this narrow tunnel, the earth trembled and the mountain swayed. Gravel rolled down the wall and splashed on the ground. The three elders were shocked by Miao Rongrong's sudden craziness, causing their bodies to tense up. Great Elder Miao was the first to react. He forced himself to calm down. Miao Rongrong. This elder has decided to give you a fair chance. Why must you do this to yourself? Chance. Miao Rongrong snorted. She looked at Great Elder Miao with contempt and disdain. Do you think I don't know? Your so-called chance is just to use me to test this little slut's true strength. I just want to know if this little slut is qualified to become the Miao tribe's holy maiden. Great Elder Miao's face turned red. Miao Rongrong had clearly seen through his thoughts. Miao Rongrong sneered disapprovingly. The reason why I became like this, condemned by everyone and ashamed to appear in front of anyone, is all because of you. It's all because of you. I want to take back everything that belongs to me and send all those who harmed me to hell with my own hands. The more she spoke, Miao Rongrong's voice was filled with a demonic murmur. Great Elder Miao wanted to explain. But the current Miao Rongrong had completely fallen into her own madness. Thick black mist was released from Miao Rongrong's body. Following that, a shocking scene unfolded in front of everyone's eyes. The thick black mist was behind Miao Rongrong. Mass after mass, the black gas gradually spread and expanded. In the blink of an eye, the bowl of black cheese suddenly dissipated. Instead, they were 5 tall and burly men dressed in black robes. Miao Yi's gaze landed on the 5 men's chests and sleeves when she saw the large "Yu" embroidered on them. His pupils suddenly constricted. She frowned. Guards from the Palace of Darkness. Weren't these people wearing the clothes of the Palace of Darkness guards that Yan Zhenfei had led yesterday? These people were from Dark Shadow Palace. Dark Shadow Palace. The elders looked at the guards in disbelief, thinking about how strong the guards of Abyss Palace were. Their faces were pale with fear. Miao Yi's expression finally turned serious. Miao Rongrong, you're working with the Palace of Gloomy Shadows. Are you scared now? Miao Rongrong sneered, her eyes filled with madness. Any random guard from the Palace of Darkness is stronger than you bunch of trash. Miao Yi, I'll let you know what's called a fate worse than death. Miao Rongrong laughed even harder. The crazier it was, the black aura in her eyes grew thicker. Chapter 28:59. Miao Yi frowned and looked at a place on her shoulder, asking in a low voice, the mastermind is the Palace of Darkness. What is their goal? Miao Yi didn't get an answer. Miao Rongrong was already charging towards her face with the black aura. At the same time, the 5 guards of the Abyss Palace moved as well. They dashed towards the few elders at high speed, facing the attack of the Palace of Darkness guards. The hearts of the 3 elders were instantly filled with shock. They felt a bone-cutting hurricane coming towards them. They wanted to dodge, but they couldn't escape from the aura of the guards. Bang bang bang, a few heavy objects fell to the ground. There were also screams and noises. The few elders slammed into the rock wall in unison. Then, they smashed into the ground. The ground was filled with broken rocks. They cried out in pain. After the Palace of Darkness guards dealt with the 3 elders, he immediately turned around and charged in Miao Yi's direction. Miao Rongrong's attack on Miao Yi. Miao Yi didn't have any intention of fighting back, just dodging with all her might. Miao Yi's speed wasn't fast. It definitely wasn't agile. But every time, she would be able to dodge before Miao Rongrong's attack landed. After a few moves, the three elders were thrown to the ground. Miao Rongrong didn't even touch the corner of Miao Yi's clothes. Miao Rongrong couldn't believe it. This bastard sister, who she had always looked down upon, had actually climbed over her head one day. Miao Yi was obviously a piece of trash. The more Miao Rongrong thought about it, the more resentment she felt. The black energy in his eyes continued to fly about. When the few guards from the dark secluded palace flew over to help, the guards from the dark secluded palace flew over to help. In Miao Rongrong's eyes, all kinds of emotions appeared, and her killing intent swelled in that instant. Miao Yi, go and die, she screamed in a hoarse voice. As she laughed maniacally, she gathered the black energy in her palm and slapped towards Miao Yi's face. No matter how Miao Yi dodged a pincer attack from all directions, Miao Yi wouldn't be able to escape. Thinking about it, Miao Rongrong's sinister smile became even wider. Ah! Suddenly, a scream pierced through the tunnel. A few of the elders who were lying on the ground vomiting blood forcefully propped themselves up and looked over. However, he saw that Miao Yi was standing there unscathed. There was not a single wound on her body, nor was she messy or disheveled. At this moment, a bewitching red light slowly enveloped the entire tunnel. It was like a protective shield. It wrapped around Miao Yi tightly. The elders were shocked and stared in that direction in disbelief. Only then did he notice. As it turned out, the moment the guards charged at them from all directions, Lin Fan's eyes lit up. A red light suddenly shot out from Miao Yi's shoulder. That red light was like a raging flame, rapidly encircling Miao Yi's body. They formed streaks of red light that looked like burning flames. Miao Rongrong was shocked by this scene. He could only watch as the flowing light that lingered around him slowly turned into a slender figure in front of him. That figure stood in front of Miao Yi. Miao Rongrong's hand that was about to strike down was forcefully held in midair by a force. Kacha! The bones in her wrist were broken. Miao Rongrong only had time to scream. Then, he felt a majestic and tyrannical aura that sent the guards surrounding him flying. Substitute Gu. It was a long-lost Gu technique of the Miao tribe. This Gu technique could use Gu worms to transform into the appearance of the substitute Gu that the host wanted. This substitute Gu was used to refresh one's mind. As one's proficiency in this kind of Gu technique increases, the time it can exist will become longer and longer. Especially towards the end, it could even pass off as the real Gu. No one could tell who was the real one. However, this kind of Gu technique, a long, long time ago, it had been lost to the world. Even if Miao Yi was a Miao Gu genius, it was impossible for her to learn this long-lost legendary Gu technique. Chapter 2861. Slut. Miao Rongrong, do you think you have the right to say these two words in front of me? Miao Yi sneered. The bewitching red glow around her gradually dissipated. That young and tender face was filled with coldness. Miao Yi's hands were clenched tightly. This was the anger that came from the deepest part of her heart. After enduring for so many years, today, she didn't want to endure any longer. She didn't want her mother to bear the infamy of seducing her husband and giving birth to a vile spawn. She wanted everyone to admit that she, Miao Yi's mother, was the real Madame Miao. The angrier Miao Yi got, the calmer her expression was, like still water. This was what Yi Qing Luo taught her. No matter how her heart was in turmoil, don't express it directly on your face. Once she could see her thoughts from her face, that meant that she was going to lose. Facing Miao Rongrong, she would absolutely not lose. Miao Yi's eyes flashed past a resolute glint. You. What are you looking at? Why am I not qualified? Isn't your mother a slut? Didn't your mother seduce my father and snatch my mother's man? Your mother, that slut, gave birth to you knowing that my mother is here. Aren't you a vile spawn? Miao Rongrong didn't want to admit that she was terrified because of Miao Yi's gaze. She straightened her neck, retorting and questioning. Little by little, the black air flowing in her eyes covered the whites of her eyes. It made Miao Rongrong look extremely strange and terrifying. Miao Yi's lips curled up coldly as she stared straight at Miao Rongrong, saying word by word, Miao Rongrong, these few elders should be the clearest about what happened that year. Was it my mother who snatched your mother's man, or your mother, who knew that Miao Yixiong and my mother were together, still shamelessly sticking to her? Miao Yi pointed behind her, at the row of elders lying on the ground. As her smile deepened, it was my mother who got together with Miao Yixiong first. And your mother merely used her power in the Miao tribe to snatch Miao Yixiong. Speaking of which, I'm a few months older than you. Don't you know who's the bastard here? You. Nonsense. Miao Rongrong's face turned red from Miao Yi's barrage of words. There was no need to ask the elders about these things. Miao Rongrong herself was very clear about this. It was precisely because she clearly knew that she was younger than Miao Yi by a few months. That was why she had used all means to torture Miao Yi since she was young. However, Miao Yi, a good-for-nothing that she had always looked down on, had brought all of this up in the open. Miao Rongrong was about to go crazy. She pointed at Miao Yi furiously. B*TCH. You bastard. You even want to frame me, an orthodox Miao. I'll kill you. Beside him, the few guards from the Abyss Palace charged towards Miao Yi. His speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, only a few shadows could be seen. Miao Yi's eyes were cold, but she did not panic at all. He was filled with anger and hatred towards Miao Rongrong. He had already blocked everything that made her afraid and fearful. Miao Rongrong, you haven't even given me an explanation about what happened between us, and you still want to touch the person I want to protect in front of me? A sweet and coquettish voice rang faintly. Chapter 2862. That hurricane was violent and ferocious. It swiftly entangled those secluded palaces' guards. The guards reacted very quickly. The 5 of them immediately spread out to avoid the whirlwind that seemed to have a mind of its own. They were very methodical. After avoiding the initial attack, at the same time, they turned around and pounced towards the direction of the hurricane. These actions, they didn't dare to do it in an instant. The exchange of blows between top experts. What they were competing on was speed. The movements of the 5 guards were like puppets. It was impossible to see any difference or flaws in their movements. It was like looking into a mirror. Just at this moment, a sharp female voice was heard, piercing to the ear. Ah! Come back quickly. Come back to protect me. Protect me. That voice was sharp and ear-piercing. It was like a sharp blade, cutting one's eardrums. The 5 secluded palace guards who were about to cross hands with the twisting hurricane suddenly froze. Bam bam bam. The hurricane directly twisted around the 5 guards. But what made them surprised was these 5 guards, at the moment when they were entangled by the hurricane, not a single one of them made a defensive action. Instead, they faced those violent hurricanes, directly, charging towards Miao Rongrong's direction. It was as though the surrounding sharp blades, which kept cutting their skin, couldn't feel it at all. In an instant, they had already dashed in front of Miao Rongrong. 5 tall and sturdy bodies surrounded Miao Rongrong tightly. Yiqing Luo, who was charging towards Miao Rongrong's direction, had no choice but to stop in her tracks. Yi Qing Luo stared at Miao Rongrong's direction, as her eyes sunk slightly. These guards were simply too strange. Just like those 10 over-secluded palace guards at the Miao clan's public square yesterday. It was extremely strange. They didn't seem to be afraid of pain. They were like puppets being controlled by someone else. They only knew how to blindly listen to the instructions. What was even stranger was those few guards' skin had obviously been cut by the hurricane which she created using her profound energy. She saw it with her own eyes. The parts of the guards which were entangled by the hurricane had turned into shreds. That piece of skin. It was also twisted to the point where countless cracks appeared. There were even bits of flesh flying everywhere, and even white bones could be seen. However, there was no trace of blood at all. This was exactly the same as yesterday, when a dozen guards were killed by the second palace master of the gloomy palace with one slash. There was no blood. Unafraid of pain. This was simply, it was like a high-end puppet. The other 3 elders were also scared silly by the 5 guards. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. You guys aren't dead yet, right? Chapter 2863. What is this? 4th Elder Miao asked in a hoarse voice. This is a miracle pill that can save your lives. What's the point of talking so much nonsense? Yi Qing Luo didn't even bother to look at him. After you take this pill, your only mission is to protect Yi. After that, stand further away and don't drag me down. You. 4th Elder Miao clutched his chest as he gritted his teeth. But he had just spat out one word when he felt his blood rushing up. He who had lost too much blood was in a daze. Don't believe me. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as her smile was filled with ridicule. Do you think you can live on just by lying here? The 3 elders' faces turned black. Suddenly, Grand Elder Miao clenched the pill in his hand tightly as he shut his eyes and stuffed it into his mouth. Boss! 2nd Elder Miao and 4th Elder Miao cried out in shock as they tried to stop him. Grand Elder Miao swallowed the pill into his stomach as the hand which was placed on the rock wall clenched tightly. No matter, she's right. We're injured to this extent and we're either going to die. She doesn't need to drug us at this point in time. 2nd Elder Miao and 4th Elder Miao were slightly stunned as they immediately lowered their eyes and looked at the strange colored pill in their palms. After some time, they made up their minds as they speedily swallowed the pill in their hands. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo's slightly cold voice was transmitted into their ears. I saved you, not because you're worth saving, but I need you to help me protect Yi and bring her out of the tunnel. If you can't even do this, I will let you enjoy a punishment that is more painful than what you're doing now. Qing Luo. When Miao Yi heard that, she immediately expressed her attitude. I'm the one who dragged you into the Miao tribe's grudge. How could I possibly leave you behind? Just based on these few people, they can't hurt me. Yi Qing Luo replied calmly as she glanced at Miao Yi from the corner of her eyes. You must leave, otherwise I have to divert my attention to protect you. It's too troublesome. Miao Yi was unable to explain this point. Right. Eldest young Miss Miao, even if you stay here, it's also making Miss Yi take care of you. 2nd Elder Miao abruptly stood up from the ground as his complexion was no longer as pale as before. The other 2 elders stood up as well. They looked at their own bodies in disbelief. He raised his hand and waved it left and right a few times. Apart from the faint pain in his internal organs, the wounds on his body were actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. They quickly understood 2nd Elder Miao's intentions. 4th Elder Miao added, Young Lady Miao, please listen to Lady Yi. If Miao Rongrong uses you to threaten Miss Yi, we're all finished. Miao Yi's face darkened. She gritted her teeth and glared fiercely at the elders in front of her. He wanted to refute their words. However, he couldn't open his mouth no matter what. Miao Yi knew this very well. With her strength, apart from Gu techniques, there was nothing else she could use. As for Miao Rongrong and the 5 guards, the Gu technique was obviously useless. If she stayed here, she would only drag Yiqing Luo down. Let's go. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her eyes were filled with smiles, appearing very calm. Miao Yi gritted her teeth and quickly retreated to Great Elder Miao's side. Trying to leave. Miao Rongrong cried out sharply, "Once you enter this tunnel, none of you will be able to leave here alive. I will absolutely not allow anyone to stop me from ascending to the position of Sacred Maiden." Chapter 2864. Miao Rongrong knew that Yiqing Luo's favorite thing was to capture the ringleader first. She didn't dare to leave the protection of the guards. She only dared to send one guard to stop her. That guard received the order. With a stretch of his body, he had already turned into an afterimage as he charged forward. The guard's speed was very fast. But Yiqing Luo's speed was obviously faster. The guard's movement towards Miao Yi was obstructed and stopped. Yiqing Luo had no intention to tangle with the guard. She took out a dagger from the profound phoenix ring. The blade of the dagger shone with an extremely cold glint. Her eyes narrowed slightly as she raised the dagger and speedily stabbed towards the guard's arm. That dagger was deeply embedded into the guard's flesh. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes, as she carefully sized up the deep wound which she had made on his body. The flesh was bloody and the muscles and bones were distinct. But there was no blood. There was no blood oozing out from the huge wound on his arm. He also did not see the shadow of blood flowing in the wound that had been cut open. The flesh was red. It was indeed red. But there was no trace of blood at all. Qing Luo. Suddenly, Miao Yi's voice was heard from behind. Yiqing Luo retracted her thoughts as she turned her head back. She saw the 3 elders pulling Miao Yi's arm as they retreated towards the other side of the tunnel. Yiqing Luo was still entangled with the secluded palace's guards. How could Miao Yi possibly leave in peace? Just like that, she was dragged along by the 3 elders. Grand Elder Miao saw that there was no other way as she lowered her voice and warned, "If you continue to drag on, Miss Yi will be fighting for time for you to leave. Don't tell me you want to see Miss Yi waste her efforts." Sure enough, this sentence made Miao Yi immediately stop struggling. Just before she left. Looking at Yiqing Luo slender and frail but filled with boundless energy, creating numerous legends. Miao Yi felt her eyes turning warm as she subconsciously called out Yiqing Luo's name. "I'll wait for you to come out. And, I'll wait for you. Aunt and the Overlord are waiting for you." Miao Yi's lips turned slightly white as she said each word in a hoarse voice, but it was extremely serious. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she nodded. Miao Yi took a deep breath, clenched her fists, and turned her head. It was as if he was afraid that he would not be able to resist the urge to stay. Miao Yi walked very quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared at the corner of the tunnel. When the 3 elders saw that Miao Yi was finally willing to leave, they all heaved a sigh of relief and quickly prepared to follow. "Wait." The girl's unique sweet voice was mixed with a hint of coldness. It caused the bodies of the 3 elders to stiffen. "Now, do you understand the situation?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly, as her sharp gaze looked at Grand Elder Miao. "Should you understand, who should you trust?" Great Elder Miao knew. Yiqing Luo was reminding him to place all his thoughts on Miao Yi. His expression changed slightly, and he glanced in Miao Rongrong's direction. To be honest. Before this. His intention was indeed as what Miao Rongrong said. He only wanted to make use of Miao Rongrong, to investigate Miao Yi's real ability, to probe if Miao Yi was really qualified to become the Miao tribe's sacred maiden. But now, from the looks of Miao Rongrong and Secluded Palace's relationship, it was obvious that they were on good terms. Chapter 2865. Great Elder Miao's thoughts couldn't help but to think a little more. Miao Rongrong, this person, although she was scheming and had a bad reputation. But if they could make Miao Rongrong stay in the Miao tribe, for example, Miao Yi as the sacred maiden, Miao Rongrong as the clan leader. In this way, not only Yi Qing Luo's forces could be pulled in steadily. Secluded Palace's forces could also be pulled in. Great Elder Miao's mind had imagined his own plans and intentions countless of times. But he had never revealed it on his face. He had not expected, but Yi Qing Luo could see through it at one glance. Great Elder Miao immediately kept his thoughts of course, we have always been on eldest Miss Miao's side. These words, ask yourself, do you believe it yourself? Yi Qing Luo exposed him immodestly as she sneered, don't try to get any benefits from Miao Yi. The benefits you want, you can get more from Yi. She paused for a moment, and her charming eyes curved into a demonic arc. She looked at Miao Rongrong and the guards who were not moving at all and sneered, let me give you a piece of advice, you can't have your cake and eat it too. This sentence was filled with a strong sense of warning. It was also an obvious message to him. If he still had any designs on Miao Rongrong, she would choose to bring Miao Yi away directly, not caring about the Miao tribe. Great Elder Miao's brows twitched as he spoke anxiously, Miss Yi, don't worry, we will absolutely protect eldest Miss Miao with our lives. Eldest Miss Miao is our Miao tribe's only sacred maiden, our only hope. Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze, not even bothering to look at those few elders as she refocused her attention onto Miao Rongrong. The conversation between Yi Qing Luo and Great Elder Miao. It sounded like a long period of time had passed. But in actual fact, it was just a short period of time. Miao Rongrong heard Yi Qing Luo's unbridled words to Great Elder Miao as the anger in her eyes burned even more vigorously. She clenched her teeth as she trembled with anger. No one can stop me. None of you can leave. Miao Rongrong stared venomously at Yi Qing Luo as she commanded the other guard beside her, chase. Chase that slut back for me. No one can leave the tunnel. No one can. Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk slightly, Miao Rongrong, if you don't explain things clearly, don't even think of letting you and your bunch of dogs leave. As soon as he finished speaking, he moved his 5 fingers. A red feather fan that was bewitching like fire appeared on the tip of her finger that was jade white like jade. The devouring flame fan moved. The flames rolled up and turned into tongues of flame. The strong profound energy followed the tongue of fire and continued to surge. It was a series of oppressive attacks. It was also extremely swift and fierce. The guard didn't even have the chance to chase after him. Chapter 2866. Who do you think you are? Are you even worthy of me to accompany you to be trapped here to death? Yi Qing Luo ridiculed without any restraint. Miao Rongrong's eyes were filled with black mist, like a dense black fog. The overwhelming black aura had already engulfed her entire body. It was like a bloody mouth had been opened wide. It swallowed Miao Rongrong. However, Miao Rongrong was not aware of it. His mind was filled with a crazed killing intent. Miao Rongrong, you set up a Xian. Just based on this, even if you die 1,000,000 times, it won't be enough to make up for what you have done. The minute Yi Qing Luo thought of the centrifugal worm and love worm in Dmo Xian's body, her heart was filled with uncontrollable rage. She then thought of Dmo Xian's attitude towards her when he switched to the centrifugal force Gu mode. Yi Qing Luo even had the intention to kill Miao Rongrong. Ha ha ha. I knew it, I knew you were just putting up a front. The overlord is indeed poisoned. After Miao Rongrong heard Yi Qing Luo's words, she started laughing maniacally. Laughing and laughing, she suddenly widened her eyes, which were suffused with black qi, as she stared straight at Yiqing Luo, as her red lips split into a treacherous and chilly smile. Even if he's poisoned by the love goo, the first thing he sees is you, so what? The centrifugal force goo will slowly devour all the love he has towards you cleanly. He will no longer love you, and in the end, under the devouring of the centrifugal force goo, he will kill you. As Miao Rongrong spoke, she had already imagined the scene in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more Miao Rongrong's fear and unease were gradually replaced by ecstasy and pride. I heard that a month ago, His Majesty abandoned you. That wasn't a misunderstanding like you said, it was the effect of the centrifugal parasite. Miao Rongrong said venomously, her pitch-black eyes were suffused with an eerie chill. Even someone as strong as an overlord can't escape the corrosion of the goo worm, Yiqing Luo. So what if you kill me here today? The relationship between you and the overlord will never return to the past. Miao Rongrong's complacent and savage laughter reverberated in Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers curled up bit by bit. Her delicate body tensed up at this moment. She suppressed the rage in her chest. She knew that Miao Rongrong was trying her best to provoke her. Once enraged, the strange black aura on Miao Rongrong's body would have a chance to enter. Moreover, once she showed her anger, she would not be able to control herself. Miao Rongrong would only laugh even more wildly. What? Are you speechless now that I've seen through you? Miao Rongrong laughed as she hid behind the guard. After staying silent for some time, Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth to refute. Unknowingly, it made Miao Rongrong felt that she had poked Yiqing Luo's sore spot. Immediately, his mouth became even more arrogant. Yiqing Luo, I even know the secret on you. I know, why did the overlord fell in love with you? And also know, the reason why you were able to become the hero of the West Continent, defeating the dark forces. Miao Rongrong seemed as though she had grasped numerous secrets as she looked at Yiqing Luo complacently. Unexpectedly. It was precisely because of Miao Rongrong's words. This caused Yiqing Luo to regain her senses from her rage. Yiqing Luo's emotions, at this moment, had been controlled. She frowned slightly, her face was filled with a stern and cold aura as she stared coldly at Miao Rongrong. What do you know? Chapter 2867. Profound Jade Heart. These three words pounded heavily in Yiqing Luo's mind. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled as her eyes widened at this moment. Miao Rongrong had been observing Yiqing Luo's expression. After seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, she immediately smiled like a blossoming flower. She was right. She had really caught hold of Yiqing Luo's weakness. With this weakness in her hands, wouldn't Yiqing Luo have to obediently bow down to her? Thinking of this, Miao Rongrong's smile became even more arrogant as it was filled with delight. Yiqing Luo, do you really think that no one knows about your profound jade heart secret? The overlord fell in love with you because of that profound jade heart. You were able to defeat the dark forces and banish them. It's all because of that profound jade heart's power, right? Miao Rongrong spilled out everything that she knew in one breath. After she finished, she proudly puffed out her chest. Are you very surprised that I know your secret? Do you want to know why I know your secret? Too bad. I don't want to tell you. Miao Rongrong's words reverberated in Yiqing Luo's mind over and over again. She carefully thought about Miao Rongrong's words. Gradually, her tightened heart relaxed. The astonished expression on her face slowly turned into calmness like still water. Are you done? Yiqing Luo remained silent for a long time. When she opened her mouth again, her voice was cold, like the frost in the winter, without any emotion. Miao Rongrong's smile stopped abruptly. The complacent smile on her face also froze for a moment. It was almost her body's instinct. Miao Rongrong speedily went back to those few, standing like statues, unmoving behind the guards. You don't try to pretend to be calm. You can't lie to me. She stuttered as she stuck out her head, trying to boost her courage. To tell the truth, I'm really not pretending to be calm. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Where did you hear all these messy news from? Miao Rongrong's eyes flashed slightly, thinking that Yiqing Luo was trying to be brave. After all, Yiqing Luo's expression earlier had already explained everything. Yiqing Luo's secret was the profound jade heart. There was no mistaking it. Miao Rongrong snorted coldly. Yiqing Luo, continue to put on a brave front. Wait till I spread the secret of your profound heart jade, I'll see how you can continue to pretend to be calm. Then tell me, what big secret do I have? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a frivolous smile as her charming eyes flowed with radiance, without a hint of panic or any other emotions. It was as if he didn't care about Miao Rongrong's so-called secret. Seeing Yiqing Luo in this state, Miao Rongrong's heart instantly lost some confidence. She tried hard to calm her racing heart and took a deep breath. She needed to calm down. She could not fall into Yiqing Luo's trap just like that. Yiqing Luo was so sinister and cunning. This must be Yiqing Luo's scheme. Those secrets which she had heard regarding Yiqing Luo were absolutely not fake. Miao Rongrong continuously brainwashed herself. Your profound heart jade is your secret. That profound heart jade of yours isn't a normal profound heart jade at all. The smile on Yiqing Luo's face deepened, but she didn't say a word. She only stared at Miao Rongrong, smiling very calmly, whereas Miao Rongrong, who was filled with fear and uneasiness, and gradually losing her confidence, totally didn't notice, in Yiqing Luo's eyes, that flash of gloomy profound meaning. As expected, just as she had guessed. Chapter 2868. I also know that you are able to freely use your profound heart jade, because of the heart-calming bead in your body. Miao Rongrong seemed to be afraid that Yiqing Luo wouldn't believe her, so she specially added a sentence. This sentence made the deeper meaning in Yiqing Luo's eyes become even more intense. What she could confirm now was that Miao Rongrong knew that her profound heart jade was not ordinary. But she didn't know where her profound heart jade was different. It looked like Miao Rongrong should have heard about her profound heart jade from somewhere. Or perhaps, someone had specially told Miao Rongrong some news about her profound heart jade. No matter which of these two guesses, she became vigilant. After all, there were already people who knew about her profound heart jade. They even knew about the heart-calming bead. Once the news of the divine phoenix profound heart jade leaked out. With her current strength, there was absolutely no way to deal with those cultivators who were filled with ambition and wanted to become stronger. And there was a possibility that it would implicate Dmo Xian and the people around him. The person who knew about the divine phoenix profound heart jade in her body, who was it? That person, how much did he know? This point. She had to dig it all out from Miao Rongrong's mouth. Yiqing Luo's eyes were slightly cold. The hurricane in the tunnel blew her fine black hair messily onto her face, covering all the emotions on her face. She didn't know if it was because of the chill from the hurricane, or because Yiqing Luo's imposing manner was too terrifying. Miao Rongrong only felt an indescribable cold current gushing out from her entire body. It made her entire body tremble uncontrollably. What a pity. Yiqing Luo gave a low laugh and slowly raised her head. Her fine black hair scattered, revealing her devastatingly beautiful face. She was smiling. Her charming eyes were filled with ridicule. Such an important secret is known by you, do you think? I will still give you a chance to leave this place. Yiqing Luo said as she shook her head. Her face was filled with helplessness as she looked at Miao Rongrong with extreme sympathy. Speaking of which, since you already know such an important secret of mine, shouldn't I also ask you a few questions, so that it's only fair? Yiqing Luo's words and sentences had intentionally emphasized on the words, important secret. His tone was filled with obvious mockery. His attitude caused Miao Rongrong's confidence to dissipate further. The smug smile on Miao Rongrong's face slowly faded away. His pupils dilated little by little. His face turned pale bit by bit. These guards are the guards of the Dark Abyss Palace. Even the so-called emissary of the Dark Abyss Palace can't order them around, but you can order them around. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she gave a cold arc of ridicule. This means that the person who collaborated with you to swap you and Miao Yisheng out is from the Palace of Darkness, right? Miao Rongrong fluttered her eyelashes nervously. She clenched her fists tightly on the guard's body. As for the guard who was caught by her, he did not move at all as he stood in front of her. The wounds on his body, which had been twisted by the hurricane which Miao Rongrong had created earlier, had expanded because of Miao Rongrong's tight grip. The guard did not move at all. It was as if he couldn't feel the pain. Yiqing Luo's vision shifted away from that guard's wound as she already had a guess in her heart which she was trying to put into practice. Chapter 2869. Yiqing Luo's every word was inching closer to the truth. After all, Miao Rongrong was still too young. She only felt her entire body turning cold, as though all the secrets in her heart had been seen through by Yiqing Luo. Looking at Yiqing Luo's nonchalant and calm look, all the complacency and arrogance she had earlier could no longer rise. Her heart was filled with uneasiness and fear. Yiqing Luo took in all of Miao Rongrong's expressions. This also meant that her guesses were basically right. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as the smile on her lips grew wider. She slowly took a step forward. Miao Rongrong was so frightened that she screamed as she hid her entire body behind the guard. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks. She stared straight at Miao Rongrong as her head drooped down slightly. The strands of hair by the side of her cheeks drooped down, covering half of her face. Only faintly revealed that her lips curled up slightly, emitting an endless cold glint. It obviously looked like she was smiling. But Miao Rongrong could clearly feel a shapeless pressure and murderous intent eroding her internal organs. Miao Rongrong was terrified. She wanted to scream and order the guards to stop Yiqing Luo. But when the words reached her mouth, she couldn't make any sound. She actually lost her voice from fright. Obviously, Yiqing Luo didn't look much older than her. But she could feel that aura which made her unable to breathe. Over at the Palace of Darkness. And I can be considered as old friends. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her eyes curved. Only such a dumb person like you would sacrifice your own soul, to become a chess piece of the Palace of Darkness, to become their food. Yiqing Luo's hoarse voice carried an undetectable bewitchment, which was extremely alluring. As expected, Miao Rongrong's eyes, which were filled with terror, was gradually tainted with a layer of shock and bewilderment. Yiqing Luo's voice became even softer as though she was hypnotizing. You're actually very clear that after cooperating with the Palace of Darkness, if you can't become the sacred maiden, then you don't want to die, right? If you don't want to die, I can let you off. Boundless fear and that innate pressure from Yiqing Luo's aura field. Miao Rongrong's heart had already been crushed. Coupled with Yiqing Luo's faint guidance now. In that instant, the fear of death in his heart rose to a peak. In Miao Rongrong's eyes, the black aura swirling around was surging bit by bit. It was as if countless black holes had formed vortexes in her pupils. Who was it that wanted to make use of you and deliberately fabricated the words about the profound heart jade to deceive you? Yiqing Luo saw that the opportunity had arrived and immediately asked in a low voice. Miao Rongrong's eyelashes fluttered. Her lips parted stiffly and with great difficulty. She enunciated each word clearly. I eavesdropped. I eavesdropped on the conversation between that emissary and someone known as the Holy Technique. They said. Ah. Miao Rongrong continued. The softer the sound. Until the last word fell. In her eyes, the surging black mist suddenly began to move at high speed. Endless black aura wrapped around Miao Rongrong. Miao Rongrong let out a painful cry. My eyes. My head. My heart. Miao Rongrong raised her hand stiffly. One moment, she was pounding her head. The next moment, she was pressing hard against her eyes. Then, she was pressing hard against her heart. Her face was filled with pain as she screamed at the top of her lungs. Chapter 2870. She was still not sure what kind of power this black aura was. If he touched it lightly, it was inevitable that he would be devoured. Or perhaps they were affected by the black gas. Yiqing Luo also understood that this black chi's sudden rampage. It was probably to stop Miao Rongrong from saying more things that were detrimental to the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Of course, with Miao Rongrong's position in the Palace of Darkness, he was unable to reveal any particularly useful information. However, there was some news. He could also deduce some things. For example, the person that Miao Rongrong mentioned, who was known as the Holy Technique, the first name that flashed through Yiqing Luo's mind was the Wolf Saint Technique. That envoy should be Yan Zhenfei. Back then, Yan Zhenfei had left the Western continent with the Wolf Saint Law. However, what made Yiqing Luo curious was the relationship between the Wolf Saint Technique and the Palace of Gloomy Darkness a partnership, or a relationship of building a force together? Yan Zhenfei was an emissary of the Gloomy Palace in name but without any real power. This initially made Yiqing Luo suspicious. The Wolf Saint Technique's position in the Palace of Seclusion wasn't considered high. But, when that person who had the same looks as Yiqing Qian, but didn't seem to have any memories of Yiqing Qian, appeared, and overturned all of Yiqing Luo's guesses. To be able to make that person the Vice Palace Master of Gloomy Palace, this was enough to prove that the authority of the Wolf Saint Technique should be greater. Yan Zhenfei was just a chess piece in Wolf Sacred Technique's hand. The person that the Wolf Saint Technique truly cared about should be the second Palace Master. Now, the only thing he could be sure of was, the Dark Nether Palace and the Dark Forces were on the same side. After fusing with each other. As a result, the Dark Organization's forbidden skills were even more exquisite than before. As for the relationship between the Sacred Wolf Technique, the Dark Forces, and the Dark Palace, he could only wait for Jun Qingwu to come back from the upper realm to find out. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in thought. That black fog-like aura had completely swallowed Miao Rongrong. At this time, Miao Rongrong's entire body was emitting a strange black mist. Miao Rongrong's eyes couldn't see anything but an endless darkness. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a slight arc as she fixed her gaze on that lady who was filled with a strange aura, as though she was ridiculing her as she scoffed, "Since you've already offered yourself, why don't you reveal your true self directly? Controlling a useless trash's body as a puppet, aren't you looking down on me too much?" Miao Rongrong had a domineering aura, black chi surged wildly, a pair of pitch-black eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's direction. His lips, which were shrouded in black mist, moved slightly. The voice was hoarse and sharp, and it was hard to tell if it was male or female. Just as Old Wolf said, "She is a smart girl. I really can't let my guard down at all." The voice came from Miao Rongrong's mouth. However, it was clearly not Miao Rongrong's voice. Miao Rongrong slowly walked out from behind the guard with a dark aura. "I thought I could still pretend to be this puppet and have some fun with you. After all, it's rare to see such a fun toy like you, His dark red mouth let out a cruel sneer. No matter, no matter. I'll bring this toy of yours back. I'll definitely be able to play to my heart's content. This puppet is too useless, too useless. Yi Qing Luo's vigilant eyes flashed slightly, as though she was secretly scheming something in her heart. Chapter 2871. Bring her back. The three words, Miao Rongrong, made Yi Qing Luo's heart moved. If she followed this person who controlled Miao Rongrong to the secluded palace, perhaps she would be able to understand more clearly about the secluded palace. But the secluded palace was obviously very strange. Moreover, from the guards of the secluded darkness palace, as well as their recent actions, the secluded palace's ability was definitely very strong. This wasn't like the last time when she followed Wolf Saint technique to the Dark Forces base camp. This secluded palace, as compared to the Dark Forces base camp, was obviously 1,000 times more advanced. In the Dark Forces base camp, if it wasn't for the activation of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade's protection mode, she would probably die in the hands of the King of Darkness. She had promised Dmo Xian. Promised those people whom she cared about, not to put herself in danger again. She slowly closed her eyes and suppressed the thought that rose up in her mind. No way. She couldn't do this. In Dmo Xian's body, there were still centrifugal goo and love goo, these two goo worms. She wasn't sure when Dmo Xian would switch modes. If she left the Miao tribe, if Dmo Xian's love goo acted up and he couldn't find her, it would cause the love goo's backlash. More importantly, Dmo Xian's cure was extremely urgent. She had to see with her own eyes that Dmo Xian was safe and sound before she could be at ease. Young lady, why aren't you speaking? Old Wolf said that you have a lot of guts, so you shouldn't be afraid of this puppet of mine, right? Miao Rongrong saw Yi Qing Luo not speaking for a long time, as an eerie laughter was heard. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she looked at the black qi which was swaying Miao Rongrong. From this person's voice and tone, Yi Qing Luo could judge that this was an old man who was at least 50 years old and above. And his gender was male. And he was definitely someone in the secluded palace who specialized in controlling puppets. His status in the secluded palace wasn't low. Controlling puppets. This person shouldn't be from the dark forces. Other than using profound yin qi to control people's hearts, it was absolutely impossible for them to attach their own consciousness onto the puppet. What's your motive? Yi Qing Luo slowly opened her mouth. Miao Rongrong laughed evilly and shook her stiff head. Because you are a very good toy. I like you as a toy. I will treat you well and let you become a very fun toy. Fun. Secluded palace had racked their brains to make a move on me, trying to capture me alive. Do you think that the people above you will allow you to turn me into a toy? Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly as she didn't think much of it. Miao Rongrong was startled. After a while, she let out a cold laugh. You really have a sharp tongue. You're a good toy, a good toy. I'll bring you back first. When the palace master doesn't need you anymore, I'll turn you into my toy, the hoarse, strange, androgynous voice kept repeating the same words. It made one's hair stand on end. Do it. Do it. I have to bring you back. If we're late, it'll be troublesome. That hoarse and sharp voice muttered to herself, can't be troublesome, can't be troublesome. Too troublesome, it will consume too much mental power. Just as Miao Rongrong finished her words, those guards behind her whose robes were tattered and covered in wounds suddenly charged towards Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 2872. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips moved. The glower flame fan opened up. Without any hesitation, she went up against those guards. Her motive was not to defeat those guards. She was very clear that the guards from secluded palace were unkillable monsters. Unless someone from secluded palace would take action personally. Otherwise, even if these guards' limbs were chopped off, they would definitely be able to stand up and attack her. Tangling with the secluded palace guards. In the end, she would only deplete all her profound energy. The motive of her tangling with the secluded palace guards was to make Miao Rongrong lower her guard so that she could find the connection point to cut off Miao Rongrong's black qi. As long as that person was unable to control the puppet Miao Rongrong, then she would not be able to control these secluded palace guards. She had to leave the tunnel as soon as possible. Otherwise, Miao Yi would not be able to complete the final recognition ceremony of the King of Venomous Worms' inheritance in peace. It would also implicate the Miao tribe into the secluded palace's matters. After a few rounds, Yi Qing Luo started to find it strenuous under the encirclement of the 5 secluded palace guards. Yi Qing Luo's advantage was her speed. But this tunnel was originally a convenient passageway to the King of Venomous Worms' land. It was extremely narrow. 5 tall and sturdy guards. A lady chasing after her. Yi Qing Luo was unable to display her footwork freely. Miao Rongrong could tell that Yi Qing Luo's footwork was slowing down as she laughed sinisterly. Her profound energy is about to be depleted. Increase your speed and attack her lethal point. Seeing Yi Qing Luo tangling with the 5 guards, Miao Rongrong stood at the same spot, releasing a steady stream of black fog. The thick black fog turned into strips of black lines. Behind the 5 guards, Wu Qi's eyes flashed. Just as Miao Rongrong gave her command. All of a sudden, the black aura around the 5 guards dissipated, forming black ripples. Following that, the 5 guards' speed suddenly became extremely agile the moment the black qi dispersed. The profound energy fluctuations around them kept increasing in speed. While Yi Qing Luo was displaying her footwork, her peripheral vision kept sizing up the guards behind her, as well as Miao Rongrong's actions. Her eyes dimmed slightly and the expression on her face was unprecedentedly grave. Damn it! This place was narrow to begin with, so it was not easy to make a move. These monsters could even increase their speed in an instant. Moreover, it wasn't just the speed that had increased. Their attack power and mystic rank seemed to have increased by a few levels. One had to know, Yi Qing Luo was now a Sky Profound Grade Strong exponent. After reaching the Sky Profound realm, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to advance to the next level. The guards of the gloomy palace fought her to a draw by relying on their unkillable and painless skills. These guards were at least at the Earth Profound realm or even the Sky Profound realm. But in such a short period of time, consecutively rising several ranks. Was it because of the power provided by the strange black fog? The disciples who had joined the Nether Palace were all talking about the so-called method of rapid advancement. Was it because of this strange black fog? What a dense evil aura! Suddenly, a voice filled with disdain rang in Yi Qing Luo's mind. The moment Yi Qing Luo heard the voice, her eyes lit up. Old man Tsang, you're awake. Ever since she passed the 3rd floor of the Purgatory Tower, you're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.